out some goals for this record. I mean, you guys are in a position where you're the hard rock band in the country, if probably not the world. Where do you go next? I mean, what are you trying to demonstrate?
There's lots of kinds of material. Basically, with all kinds of different reactions in the press and this and that, it was kind of like the only way to show where we've been and to make ourselves happy was to just try to put it all out. Try to put all the material out at once, which, you know, 148 minutes, that hasn't really been done. I mean, Springsteen put out a 5-album box set, but it was live. You know, it had been done over the years. Most of this is new material, and there's a couple cover tunes in it.
Is this album going to be also mixed up like GNR Live? There's going to be a lot of acoustic stuff on it, too? Are there going to be different stylistic things going on?
Yeah, there'll be a few acoustic things. There'll be some songs that are acoustic going into electric, back to acoustic and stuff like that. I actually play guitar on a couple songs for the first time. I can only play 2 strings, but it's some pretty cool punk rock type stuff.
How come Steven left the band at this critical juncture?
Steven didn't leave the band.
Or how come you and...
Steven was fired.
Oh, okay.
Steven, we gave him every ultimatum. We tried working with other drummers. We had Steven sign a contract saying if he went back to drugs, then he was out. Yeah. He couldn't leave his drugs. And other things have happened involved with Steven, that Steven is basically someone I used to know. It makes me feel bad, yeah. But there's other things beside the band that he was involved in with his drugs that have been very dangerous and scary, and that I want nothing to do with him.
Is that what you were talking about when you were open for the Rolling Stones in L.A. last year? And you said somebody in this band has been dancing with Mr. Brownstone, essentially?
Oh, there was... majority of the band was at that time, or too much alcohol, or too much something. Me, I was eating too much or whatever, and just sitting on my ass too much.
Yeah. How's it going with the new drummer? Is he fitting right in? Or it must be very hard at this point to bring somebody new into the band, isn't it?
It was a miracle. Yeah. He has saved the band's life. He came in, he's in an up mood, he works, he writes his own material. Yeah. He writes a lot, he works real well with us. He takes suggestions well, he keeps everybody in line, keeps the timing great. You know, I mean, he played 29 songs in a month.
Yeah, you mentioned one of the covers you're doing is You Only Live Twice. Why that, of all the songs in the world?
No, Live and Let Die.
Oh, I'm sorry, Live and Let Die. That's right.
Live and Let Die. I don't know, I was watching I thought about it once a long time ago, but just thought you'd never be able to get that the way it sounds. Yeah. Just done that well. And then I was watching, I'd rented the movie, and I was watching it, and I just went, this song sounds like Welcome to the Jungle too. You know? It's like Now That You're Here. So, and it just felt right. So we ended up playing it a little bit in rehearsal, and it started working, and now that we actually have gone and started recording it, you know, we're finding out that, wait, we are good enough to play this song. Yeah. You know, we didn't think we were. You know, we didn't think to get it down right. You know, but Slash is doing most of the string arrangements on his guitar with a harmonizer. And it's kind of like, to me, it's like Tom Waits meets Metallica or something, because the way I sing it's so rough and scratchy. But, you know, that I sound like Tom Waits or something on it, kind of. It's working out really good, and it sounds like us. Yeah. So, I mean, everybody that hears it thinks that it sounds like the perfect song for us to do.
Have you got anything coming up? You had mentioned there's something a song on this album that's coming up that might cause some problems, you think? Is there anything
There's a song called Coma that is like 11 minutes and 45 seconds long with no chorus. Okay. And I think there was only one verse that like somewhat repeats itself. It's Slash's baby. It's his monster. The song used to be called Girth. But I started writing about when I OD'd 4 years ago, and the reason I OD'd was because of stress. I couldn't take it. Yeah. And I just grabbed this bottle of pills in an argument and just gulped them down. Yeah. And I ended up in the hospital. But I liked that I wasn't in the fight anymore. And I was fully conscious that I was leaving. Yeah. I liked that. But then I go, all of a sudden my first real thoughts though were that, okay, you haven't toured enough, the record's not going to last, it's going to be forgotten, and this and that, you have work to do, get out of this. And I went, no, and I woke up, you know, and pulled myself out of it. But in the describing of that, some people could take it wrong and think this means go put yourself into a coma, you know, and so it's really tricky, and I'm still playing with the words to figure out how to, like, show some hope in there.
Yeah. Well, you seem to have, I mean, from a couple of years ago, like ODing on pills, you've come a long way since then. Do you feel more settled down now? I mean, you seem pretty relaxed and together.
Yeah, but it's been a lot of work to do that, because there's, you know, we got used to, like, as the Eagles would say, everything all the time, and, you know, living that way and going for it, and all of a sudden you started to and then that's what got us here. That's what got us signed. That's what got us on top of things. And then you got to a point where you go, wait a minute, everything that got me here is also starting to I'm starting to self-destruct. It's starting to tear up my life. I have to figure out how to channel my energies other directions. It's a weird one. Settling down is a weird one, you know.
Do you think it's just a function of, like, getting older and you know, learning more and being more aware of what's going on?
It's realizing there's life after, you know, 21, life after 25, life after 27, you know. 27 was the hardest year. I met Prince, and I was talking with Prince, and he was like, how old are you, 28? And he goes, last year was the hardest, wasn't it? And he was saying how 27 is like the bitch. It's the hardest year.
Really?
27 was definitely my hardest year.
Well, it's all behind you now.
Yeah, it's still a mess, but, like, I'm used to when it gets a mess.
Yeah. Did you consider that valid when people say, well, you're up there in front of kids, you have to set a good example? I mean, a lot of people say, well, no, I'm an artist, I don't have to set an example, I just do my art. I mean, how do you feel about that?
It's real tricky. Our first major tour was with Motley Crue, and the audience was younger than most audiences we played, like on the Aerosmith tour or on other tours or our own tours and the tours with the Cult. And it was real hard to do the song It's So Easy. Yeah. Because there's a line in there, I drink and drive and everything's in sight. We were talking about kind of how we got away with things and we're lucky to be here. It was real hard knowing that some of these kids would just go out and go, yeah, I drink and drive, everything's inside. I mean, Izzy put it best when he said, a lot of people think our record means, you know, party and do cocaine and rock and roll, and it's like, and that just ain't what it is. Yeah. And so Izzy was going to quit at one time because he didn't like the way people were reacting to it. Heard something on the radio last night when Frank Zappa broke up the Mothers. It was because people were clapping for all the wrong reasons. Yeah. It's hard when you know that you're doing your material and the audience, a majority of your audience, isn't getting what you meant. It's like, welcome to the jungle.
When you were a kid, is there one thing that turned you on and said, wow, this is what I want to do?
When that happened, I mean, I was already playing and singing and church music and all kinds of things. When it happened that, is this what I want to do, was Led Zeppelin's Jamaica. When I heard that, I was making fun of it all day long, because I was always writing down the lyrics to all the joke songs that were out, Spiders and Snakes and stuff, and passing it out to all the kids. But I heard that song and I was going, yeah, there's another one. And I was out making fun of it. But by afternoon recess, I was in the corner with the radio waiting to hear that song. That, Benny and the Jets, just made me go, I want this.
It's funny, I wouldn't normally picture it as an Elton John, like, launching your consciousness of music.
Elton John is it. If like, you know, especially the first 7 albums, Bernie Taupin, to me, is the best lyric writer that's ever lived on the face of the earth. And Elton John was just amazing in the studio and the recording of everything. And some of it's so art. I mean, to me, that's my classical music, because some of his stuff is classical. Yeah, right. You know, and so I listen to Elton John all the time.
Gus Dudgeon arrangements and everything.
I'm always supposed to meet them. I think they're the only 2 people I'm, like, nervous to meet. You know, it's like something always comes up where I don't feel well and I just can't meet them.
Yeah. What were you doing when was the first thing you did in music? Was it church stuff? I mean, you'd just be going to church and singing. Were you singing in a choir or something? Or?
Church stuff, singing since I was a little kid. Like, my brother and sister and I would have to sing in a trio, which was then the Bailey Trio. And we would sing in front of the church, which started, like, in the little back room of a library and then built up to where it was a big brick country church.
This is like Nearer My God to Thee, stuff like that? Or?
Yeah, all the Amazing Grace and everything. Actually, Sebastian Bach and I are talking about doing a version of Amazing Grace together. Really? I think it's a whole new idea that him and I are going to do this together, because everybody wanted us to be enemies, kind of a bit in the, you know, press things, or who's better, or this and that, and it's kind of like, we just hit it off, you know?
Have you patched up your differences with Vince Neil and the boys? And he had a scuffle last year backstage at the...
Oh, no way.
No? Oh, okay.
No way. Haven't patched up anything.
The Video Music Awards were not a picnic for all concerned, however, including Guns N' Roses guitarist Izzy Stradlin, who was punched in the face by Motley Crue vocalist Vince Neil, as Stradlin walked off stage with his manager Alan Nivens. This was apparently Neil's reaction to a 1988 incident at an LA rock club in which Stradlin allegedly assaulted Neil's wife, Charisse, then had her ejected from a room at the club.
What's the dispute there?
Well, I mean, they think... I've read in interviews of theirs that they feel that it's like I'm just, you know, standing up for Izzy and stuff, but Vince should be careful what golf courses he's mouthing off about Axl on and who he's playing golf with. You know, when he goes out playing golf, mouths off about Axl, and he happens to be playing golf with people that work for me, stories come back. You know, and, you know, he likes to put in magazines that he broke Izzy's nose, or, you know, and how Alan Niven wasn't even there, my manager, or anything like that, and no one was around. I don't know. We didn't want to take it to court because it would be too much trouble and too much hassle, but when, you know, Tom Petty's security crew wants to be witnesses in court, you know, it's, you know, it's funny because Izzy's like going, because people think it's going to happen sooner or later or whatever, and it's like that Vince and I'll get into it or something, you know, and Izzy laughs because he's like, that guy, you know, had a full-on free shot, you know, and hit like a powder puff, you know, and he was like, so it's like, it's pretty scary if the guy thinks about a real hassle. You know, I put in a magazine, you know, anytime he wants it, anywhere, Atlantic City, I don't care. We'll put money on it, you know. I don't care, you know, and then he tried to turn it around and say the same thing, but, you know, the invitation's there. I'm easy to find. If you really want a hassle, you know, we can have it out.
I always thought everybody on the LA scene was so tight and friendly and everything. You know, it's just...
Oh, no, it gets real competitive. We tried to help a lot of bands when we knew we were taking off.
Yeah.
And even some of the bands that we were helping, I don't want to name names or anything, ended up getting very jealous because they were having to, like, kind of, like, exist in our shadow a bit. And that was really hard because we were, like, we could have given the gigs to somebody else. Yeah. You know, we could have helped someone else out.
Jeez. Did you still feel a part of the scene? I mean, you still go out, right? Can you still go to clubs and stuff?
A little bit, yeah. I can go out more now. People don't, it's not as crazy as it was. Yeah. It's the ball's starting to get rolling again, and it's starting to get crazy again. But I can go out a little bit. About a year ago, it was a mess. Now it's mellowing out, and I think people are a little bit, I don't know if it's intimidated or what, they're just, now they kind of look at me like, oh my God, no, that can't be him. Even if they're talking to me, they don't think that they would see me, which is kind of cool.
Because you don't see each other as much as you did when you were like living in one
place. Yeah, everybody
right?
has their own lives. I mean, Izzy basically has 5 Harleys, and every time you're looking for Izzy, you find out he's in Mexico, or he's in London, or he drove to Texas, or he's up in Yellowstone or something, you know. He's always somewhere.
What about the rest of the guys? Are they pretty scattered too? I mean, Slash stay home and play all the time? And...
He's always working on something, working on his house, or working on someone else's record, or something like that. So we don't really hang that much, but we call each other up on the phone to tell each other what we did, you know. We're best friends even though we have separate lives, somewhat, you know. And we brought that friendship back together, you know, because otherwise it was getting to a point where, okay, then we are going to go separate.
Can you imagine yourself ever going off and doing like a solo album? Can you imagine finding a band that would be for you what Guns N' Roses is?
No, I can imagine finding people that play really good that I want to do songs with and see about possibly putting a solo project together at some point, but not getting the same effect. Yeah. But I can't really see trying to duplicate what Guns N' Roses is, because Guns N' Roses is so much more than we ever thought it really would be. It's actually, it's like a dream band having like the Hummingbird. It's gone. It's like Welcome to the Jungle.
You were going to do a version of Welcome to the Jungle with Ice-T. And it was funny because we were talking to Chuck D and Public Enemy recently, and he's really into like slamming music. And he said, so what do you listen to? What do you like? And he said, Guns N' Roses. They do slamming music, which is odd. You wouldn't expect to hear this in rap circles.
I listen to Public Enemy now all the time.
Really?
Yeah. I listen to Public Enemy, Ice-T, NWA, and Ghetto Boys.
Hey, do you think that there's a future for you in rap? I mean, are you good at this?
I'm not that good at rap. You know, I listen to it a lot. It's like, I like it because it keeps me awake and aware of what's going on.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I watch MTV Raps more than I watch Headbangers Ball.
Yeah.
Headbangers Ball has a lot. Some stuff's good. Some things are like, I don't know. I look at it like, yeah, I was there 5 years ago or 6 years ago. I want to move on. I listen to Public Enemy a bit more because of all the social issues they bring up in their things and in their songs and stuff. So that's like, I don't know what I agree with and what I disagree with at this point. I'm just listening to it and enjoying it and enjoying that someone's taking that strong of a stand on what they believe.
What do you, well, let's take Two Live Crew as an example. I mean, this has been a good and a bad year for them. What do you make of the fact that in the United States for the first time, a record can be declared illegal, essentially? I mean,
I think it's crazy. I mean, I think it's like, you know, saying the Diary of Anne Frank, you know, influences people in a bad way or something, or the dictionary that has, if it has a definition for a four-letter word, is in a bad way. I mean, there was an article in Penthouse magazine saying that if you want to, like, point fingers and say what influences people in a bad way and most powerful influence and, like, what damage has been done, it's like the Bible has caused more wars and death than anything by people reacting to it however they feel they should react to this. More than any other book, you know? So unless you're going to get rid of Shakespeare, unless you're going to get rid of the Bible and things like that, back off. And, you know, I'm sorry, if it makes your job of raising your kids a little bit harder, maybe, you know, you should have thought about that beforehand, before you had your kids. So.
I mean, do you think you'd feel different about this after you had a kid?
No. No, not even if I had a kid and he did something because the record said do it.
Yeah.
You know, No, I don't think I would feel different at all, because I think about that a lot.
Was your experience with religion as a kid essentially positive? I mean, you had the musical aspect of it, that was good, or
it was essentially positive about teaching you the King James Bible, what the Bible says, but I just watched my church, or watched everybody become very hypocritical and self-righteous to the point that they started, like, destroying the unity they had that built the church. You know, because I was there from the beginning till when it became big church.
Is it Baptist church? Or?
No, it was Pentecostal. And it was like about 8 miles out in the country. And then it just got very hypocritical and self-righteous, you know, like, you know, you could sit there as a kid and watch people on this side of the church were saying something bad about the people over here, you know, and it's like, it just got like, who was more religious, you know, within the church? Who was pure? Who was going to heaven and who wasn't in the congregation? And it was like, it was just very, very negative. At that point.
Does this upset you at all, seeing, because these seem to be the people, the fundamentalist people, seem to be the people that are attacking popular music, especially rock and rap now. I mean, people like, we just covered a record burning, believe it or not, again. These guys, the Peters Brothers, and they're throwing in the old Ozzy records and all this stuff. I mean, it's incredible that this is coming back again here. It's 1990.
It's like Dave Mustaine says, though, you know, to burn them, you had to go buy them.
Yeah. Good thought, I suppose.
You know, it's like, go ahead, burn the record, you know, make some news. Make some news for me. I think people are just scared of art, you know. Which, art's very powerful. And it's hard to say which art, you know, should be in the hands of babes, you know, that they don't understand what they've got in their hands. I mean, The Wall is a very powerful piece of work that, like, I know people that, like, got into The Wall and didn't come out of it for 5 years, you know? They just locked themselves into this frame of mind of whatever they were getting out of that album, you know, and most of it seemed to be positive, but during the 5 years, they became very distant from everybody and very alienated. But Roger Waters was giving everything he had, describing where he had been in his mind. And what life did to him. So I don't know. Art's a very powerful thing, and I just don't think they know what to do with it. And I don't think they can stop it, but you have to go out and fight. You've always had to do it, and just because we're in the 90s and it seems like it's easier, you know, it's really no different than, like, you know, back in the 17th century, you know, when you had to fight for a book to be printed or something.
Do you still paint or anything yourself?
I'm just starting to draw and paint. a few years ago was like, okay, you can go take photos or you could build this sculpture. You should probably throw yourself into the band. It was like all or nothing for Guns N' Roses to make this happen, to give me the chance to do whatever I wanted.
Yeah.
You know, it's like there was other reasons for, you know, Guns N' Roses fighting to get this successful was so that we could do what we wanted and get away with it and be able to live comfortably doing it, you know, and have some security.
What did you, when you finally got on the stage with the Stones last fall, were they what you expected them to be, you know, 27 years on in their career? Did they still have something going for them, did you think?
It was great playing with them. It was a definite dream. I mean, it was something that we told people we were going to do, and people were going, no, they're broke up. I don't care. We're going to open for the Stones. You wait. We're going to do this. I don't know how, but we're going to do this. So, and then, you know, I told Keith Richards that, and he's like, well, you made it, mate. Let me have a cigarette.
You know